The Super Tuesday primaries and caucuses of the US Democratic and Republican parties are now over. The frontrunners are clear. Hillary Clinton, former First Lady and former US Senator for New York and former Secretary of State, most recently, is leading clearly, having won 11 states so far. However, she's still being strongly challenged for the Democratic presidential candidacy or nomination by independent turned Democratic Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont, who has so far won 5 states. So far, Hillary Clinton is clearly leading, although not overwhelmingly leading Senator Sanders in the delegate count. According to the English language Wikipedia, she has 599 pledged and 457 unpledged delegates, while Senator Sanders has 407 pledged and 22 unpledged delegates. Then there are also these super delegates, most of whom are likely to endorse Mrs. Clinton. Yeah, 712 current unpledged superdelegates will include members of the U.S. House of Representatives and Senate, state and territorial governors, members of the Democratic National Committee, and other party leaders. Because some of them might die, resign, or be dropped because of intervening or special elections or defeated, the final number of these superdelegates might be reduced before the Democratic National Convention in July 2016. Anyway, the next primaries will include, on the Democratic side, on March the 5th, the Kansas, Louisiana, and Nebraska primaries, with a total of 37, 59, and 30 delegates, including the unpledged ones. On March the 6th, the Maine primary with a total of 30 delegates. On March the 8th, the Michigan and Mississippi primaries with 147 and 41 delegates in that order. On March the 12th, the Northern Mariana Islands with 11 delegates, the Florida, Illinois, and then on March the 15th, the Florida, Illinois, Missouri, North Carolina, and Ohio primaries with 246, 182, 84, 121, and 160 delegates. On March the 22nd, the Arizona, Idaho, and Utah primaries with 85, 27, and 37 delegates. On March the 26th, the Alaska, Hawaii, and Washington primaries with 20, 35, and 118 delegates. On April the 5th, the Wisconsin primary with 96 delegates. And then on April the 9th, the Wyoming primary with 18 delegates. Then on April the 19th, the New York primary with 291 delegates. Then on April the 26th, the Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island primaries with 71, 31, 118, 210, and 33 delegates. On May the 3rd, the Indiana primary with 92 delegates. On May the 7th, the Guam primary with 12 delegates. On May the 10th, the West Virginia primary with 37 delegates. On May the 17th, the Kentucky and Oregon primaries with 60 and 74 delegates. On June the 4th, the Virgin Islands primary with 12 delegates. On June the 5th, the Puerto Rico primary with 67 delegates. On June the 7th, the California, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Dakota, and South Dakota primaries with 548, 27, 142, 43, 23, and 25 delegates. And finally, the District of Columbia or Washington primary with 46 delegates. So altogether, including the 712 unpledged super delegates, there will be 4,763 delegates, and the winner then must secure an absolute majority of them, or 2,383 delegates. Okay, here it's anyway included that they're claimed that there will be 4,765 delegates. Be that as it may, given the fact that there are only two official candidates still running, the overall winner might already be clear by sometime in March or April, at the latest in May. Anyway, on the Republican side, there are still at this time 4 active candidates. Donald Trump, a billionaire whose home state is now New York, who so far has projected 338 delegates and has won 10 states. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas with a projected 236 delegates, having won 4 states. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio of Florida with a projected 112 delegates, having won 1 state, and then Governor John Kasich of Ohio with 27 projected delegates, having so far won no states. In terms of popular vote, Trump is leading so far with about 3,320,000 votes, or 34.3%. Senator Cruz is second with about 2,710,000 votes, or 28%. Senator Rubio has about 2.1 million votes, or 21.7%. Governor Kasich has about 640,000 votes, or 6.6%. Kasich has refused to withdraw, although no one is giving him any chance of capturing the presidency. Theoretically, Senators Cruz and Rubio should join forces, but it seems that neither one of them is as yet willing to withdraw in favor of the other, because in several states, theoretically, had they joined forces and had the Republican primary voters who supported them voted for a joint candidate, whether Senator Cruz or Senator Rubio, they could together have defeated billionaire Trump. But it remains to be seen whether Trump's apparently easy striding towards the U.S. Republican presidential nomination or candidacy will continue, or will either Senator Cruz or Senator Rubio start winning so many primaries that Trump's journey towards the 1,237 delegates whom he needs to win the U.S. Republican presidential candidacy will be halted. Anyway, they would have to start winning. Either Senator Cruz or Senator Rubio would have to start winning consecutive or back-to-back primaries. If either one of them won, for example, 4 or 5 or 6 consecutive primaries, starting with the next set of primaries, then that would put billionaire Trump's triumph over them into doubt. However, this seems unlikely to happen, but we will of course see how it goes. In politics, many things are possible. Of course, the fact that billionaire Trump has never led political office can be both an advantage and a disadvantage for him. An advantage in the sense that so many US voters, including Republicans, are just sick and tired of politics and politicians as usual. On the other hand, if complicated policy questions are posed to billionaire Trump and he gives either incoherent answers or just evades the questions, and Senators Cruz and Rubio give articulate and at least apparently intelligent answers, that could go a long way towards their subtle claims that billionaire Trump isn't politically experienced enough or competent enough to be the U.S. Republican presidential candidate, let alone be elected as the next US president. And some Republicans have openly voiced fears or concerns that should billionaire Trump win the US Republican Party's presidential candidacy, he might end up dividing the party, which of course would work in favor of the ruling Democrats. And of course, since the Republicans have congressional majorities, if the party was actually divided, whether unofficially or officially, that would amount to a major political upheaval in the party. And of course, if it ended up losing the third consecutive presidential election, that could make the party despair of ever being able to overcome the Democratic hold on the presidency. Of course, I mean, since the United States is an advanced democracy, neither major party always wins elections. Eventually, either one will lose the presidency and or the Congress. And billionaire Trump clearly is appealing to the populist right-wing / libertarian wing of the Republican Party, partly also to the nativist wing, in his demand that temporarily all immigration of Muslims into the United States be halted. But then his habit of insulting his major opponents, and generally speaking of speaking rudely even to some journalists or referring to them impolitely, can eventually cause quite many US voters to turn away from him, especially in the general election campaign this autumn.